The day I found out my husband had emptied our joint savings account, I was standing in the middle of a Walgreens in my work blazer, trying to pay for our daughter's prescription, and my debit card was declined. Not once, 3 times. The pharmacist slid the card back across the counter with that look, the one that says she's seen this before, that kind of quiet pity. And I just stood there with my purse open, going completely numb from the inside out. We had $41,280 in that account as of the previous Thursday. I know because I had checked it myself when I transferred money in for the quarterly insurance payment. $41,280. We had been building that for 6 years. 6 years of me skipping vacations, buying store-brand everything, freelancing on weekends while Brendan sat on the couch watching football and calling himself the provider. 6 years of discipline and sacrifice and telling myself it would be worth it someday. And then, on a Tuesday afternoon in February, I am standing in a drugstore being told by a machine that I have insufficient funds. I paid for the prescription with a credit card I had been saving for emergencies, and I drove home with my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. I kept thinking there had been a mistake, a bank error, fraud maybe. I told myself 17 different rational explanations before I even pulled into the driveway, because the one explanation I was not allowing myself to reach, not yet, would have broken me right there in the front seat. I sat in the driveway for 22 minutes. I know because I watched the clock on the dashboard tick from 5:47 to 6:09. 22 minutes before I could make myself walk inside. I should tell you who Brendan was, or who I thought he was for 14 years. We met when I was 26 and he was 30. He was charming in that easy, uncomplicated way. Not flashy, not the kind of man who walks into a room demanding attention, but the kind who made you feel like the most interesting person at the table when he was talking to you. He sold commercial real estate. He wore good shoes. He remembered things, birthdays, the names of your cousins, the coffee order you mentioned once 3 months ago. I fell for all of it completely. We got married when I was 28. I was working as a project manager at a mid-sized tech firm, making decent money, but Brendan always made more, and he never let me forget it in the subtle way that men like him never let you forget anything. Not with cruelty, but with small, constant reminders. He handled the finances. Of course he did. He was the numbers person. I had the household account for groceries and the kids' activities and day-to-day things, and he managed everything else. I trusted him with that the way you trust someone with something you have absolutely no reason to doubt. We had 2 kids. Sienna was 11 and Marcus was 8. Our life looked, from every angle, completely fine. Better than fine. We had a 4-bedroom house in a good suburb outside of Charlotte. We went to church on the holidays. We threw birthday parties. We took the kids to the beach every summer and posted the photos, and people commented things like relationship goals and beautiful family, and I genuinely, sincerely believed it was true. Looking back now, I can identify the moment the ground shifted under me, though I didn't know it then. It was about 2.5 years ago. Brendan started working late. Not every night, not dramatically, but more than before. He started going to the gym in the evenings instead of mornings. He got slightly more careful about his phone. Not paranoid careful, just slightly. He'd angle the screen a little, or he'd take calls in the garage. Each thing was small enough on its own to explain away. I explained it away. I was busy. I was managing 2 kids and a demanding job and a house and 100 small crises every week. I did not have the bandwidth to investigate the emotional subtext of my husband's gym schedule. I should have had the bandwidth. I know that now. By the time I got inside that evening in February, Brendan's car was already in the garage. He was in the kitchen, making pasta, acting completely normal. He kissed me on the cheek. He asked how my day was. I watched him stir the pot and I thought to myself, does he know that I know? But I didn't know anything yet. I just knew the account was empty. I didn't know why. I waited until the kids were in bed, and then I sat down at the kitchen table and I opened my laptop and I logged into the bank account. The savings balance read $412. I clicked on the transaction history and I started reading. He had been making withdrawals and wire transfers for 14 months. Not all at once. That would have been noticeable. That might have triggered something from the bank, some kind of flag. No, Brendan was smarter than that. He did it in increments. 3,000 here, 4,500 there. A wire transfer of 8,000 to an account I didn't recognize. Cash withdrawals of 1,200, 1,500, 2,000. Slow and steady and invisible, the way termites eat through a wall. Over 14 months, he had moved or withdrawn a total of $38,760 from an account that was supposed to be our family's future. I called his name from the kitchen table. He came in and leaned in the doorway, and I turned the laptop around so he could see the screen, and I said, very quietly, "What is this?" I want you to know that I have replayed what happened next so many times. I want you to know I have turned it over in my mind like a stone, looking for any interpretation that makes it something other than what it was. And it was this. He looked at that screen, and then he looked at me, and he said, "I earned that money. I decide what happens to it." Not a denial, not a lie, not even the decency of a fabricated explanation. Just that. I earned that money. I decide. I looked at him for a long time, and then I said very carefully, "Where did it go?" He said it was investments, that he had been making some investments and they hadn't worked out the way he planned, and he was going to fix it. He said I was overreacting. He said I didn't understand how finances worked. He said he had it under control and he needed me to trust him. I asked him about the wire transfers. I asked about the account number I didn't recognize, and his face did something then, just a flicker, just a fraction of a second, and I knew. I did not have proof yet, but I knew. The way you know a storm is coming before the sky has changed color. Something in the body just knows. He said it was a business account. He said it was complicated. He said I was making him feel like a criminal in his own house, and then he went to bed. I did not go to bed. I sat at that kitchen table until 3 in the morning. My sister Renata came over the next day, and I showed her everything. Renata is a paralegal, and she has the kind of calm, systematic mind that goes ice cold when there is a problem to solve. She did not cry with me. She did not tell me to calm down or give him a chance to explain. She pulled up a chair, put on her reading glasses, and said, "Okay, we need to find out where the money went, and then we need to protect what's left." She was the one who told me not to confront him again. Not yet. She was the one who said I needed a lawyer before I made another move. I hired Deborah Fitch 3 days later. Deborah Fitch is a divorce attorney in Charlotte who has a reputation that makes husbands nervous just hearing her name mentioned. She charges $420 an hour, and she is worth every single penny. When I sat down in her office and laid out what I'd found, she listened with her hands folded on the desk, and then she said, "He's hiding the money or he's spending it. Either way, we're going to find it." And then she said the sentence that changed everything. "Don't change anything. Don't move money, don't cancel accounts, don't tip him off. You are going to act normal. And while you're acting normal, we are going to build a case." So that's what I did. I acted normal for 11 weeks. 11 weeks of making dinner and watching TV and sending the kids to school and lying next to Brendan in bed at night with a smile on my face and absolute murder in my heart. I am not a person who is comfortable with pretending. I never have been. But I want you to understand what those 11 weeks felt like, because it was not performance. It was strategy. Every morning I woke up and I thought about Sienna and Marcus. I thought about the $41,000. And I got up and I made breakfast, and I was the most unremarkable, unthreatening version of myself that I have ever been. Meanwhile, Deborah and the forensic accountant she brought in, a man named Charles Whitmore, who had clearly seen every possible way a person can hide money, were dismantling Brendan's financial life brick by brick. What they found was this. The wire transfers had been going to an account in the name of a woman named Tessa Holbrook, 27 years old, a leasing agent at a property firm where Brendan had done business. They had been together for 2 years and 4 months. He had paid for her apartment, a 1-bedroom in a building downtown where the rent was $2,300 a month. He had paid for a trip to Cancun in April and a long weekend in Nashville in October. He had bought her a used Audi A4 for $17,000. He had given her, over the course of their relationship, somewhere in the range of $22,000 in cash and direct transfers. All of it from our savings account. All of it from the money I had watched grow for 6 years. And you want to know the worst part? He had also put in a request 3 weeks after that night at the kitchen table, quietly, without telling me, to refinance our home. He was trying to pull equity out. He was planning to disappear the rest of it before I could get to it. Deborah caught it. The bank had not yet processed the paperwork. We froze it. I will never be able to fully explain what I felt when Deborah called me with the name Tessa Holbrook. I want to say it was rage. There was rage in it, but mostly it was grief. A 14-year marriage, 2 children, the life I had built, cell by cell, decision by decision, choosing this man over and over again without ever being told the choice was not real. That is what broke me, briefly, before it hardened into something else. On a Thursday morning in May at 11 o'clock, Brendan was served with divorce papers at his office. He was in the middle of a client meeting. His assistant knocked on the door and handed him the envelope and said there was someone outside waiting to confirm receipt. I was not there for that moment. But Deborah's process server said he went completely pale and excused himself from the meeting and did not return to it. He called me 7 times in the next 2 hours. I did not answer once. When he came home that evening, I was sitting at the kitchen table, the same kitchen table, with my phone face down and my hands folded, and I let him walk in. He was already in performance mode, already cycling through the emotions he thought would move me. He was upset, then apologetic, then desperate, then angry. He said he had made a mistake. He said it was over with Tessa, completely over. He had ended it. He said we could work through this. He said the kids needed their family together. He said he still loved me. He stood in our kitchen and he said all of the right words in the wrong order, and none of them meant anything at all anymore. When he finally stopped, I said, I know about the $38,760. I know about Tessa Holbrook. I know about the apartment and the car and Cancun. I know you tried to refinance the house. I paused. I let that sit in the air between us. And then I said, you don't need to explain anything. The court will handle the rest. He called me vindictive. He called me a liar. He said I had poisoned our kids against him, which he had no basis for saying because I had not said a single word about any of this to Sienna or Marcus. He said Deborah Fitch was a predator and that I was going to regret this. He said a lot of things that night, loud things, and I want you to know that I did not raise my voice once, not once, because I had already won, and I knew it. And there is a very particular kind of quiet that comes from knowing you have already won. The divorce took 8 months. North Carolina has very specific statutes around marital waste, the legal term for what Brendan had done, using marital assets to fund an affair. Deborah argued it beautifully. The forensic accounting was airtight. The court ordered Brendan to repay the marital estate the full $38,760 that had been documented as wasted. I was awarded the house. I was awarded primary custody of Sienna and Marcus. He got a visitation schedule and a child support obligation, and an apartment in a neighborhood he would not have chosen for himself. About 30 days after the divorce was finalized, he texted me. It was a Thursday evening. The kids were with me. We had just finished dinner, and I looked at my phone, and there it was. He said he was struggling to keep up with his expenses. He said some accounts were past due. He said he needed a short-term loan. He used the word loan, as if there were any universe in which I would be paid back, and he asked if I could help him out. I read that message 3 times. I want to tell you I crafted something sharp and devastating in response. I want to tell you I wrote something poetic, something he would remember. But the truth is better than that. I typed 2 words and I hit send, and then I put my phone down and I went back to my children. I said, "Which account?" He never responded. I had the locks changed when I moved his last box out. I painted the bedroom a color I had wanted for 3 years, and he'd said was too bold. I took the kids to the beach that summer, just the 3 of us, and I did not post a single photo online. That trip was mine. I didn't need anyone to see it. I am 39 years old. I have a 4-bedroom house with a mortgage I handle alone, and a savings account I am rebuilding with my own hands, and children who know that their mother does not fall down and stay down. I have a lawyer whose number I still have saved under D for dangerous. I have a sister who showed up with reading glasses and a clear head when I needed her most. I have a bedroom painted in the exact color I chose. I don't carry what Brendan did to me as a wound anymore. I carry it as a lesson. It taught me that the most dangerous thing a woman can do is hand over full access to the life she built. It taught me that quiet patience is its own kind of power. It taught me that sometimes the most devastating thing you can say to someone who tried to erase you is absolutely nothing at all. 2 words, "Which account?" And then silence. He spent our savings on a woman who didn't stay. He tried to drain the equity out of the house we raised our children in. He stood in our kitchen and told me he earned the money, and he decided what happened to it. And now he sits in a rental apartment with overdue bills and a visitation schedule, texting his ex-wife for a loan she will never give him. I decided what happened to it. In the end, I always do.